Amen. In a few minutes, let us continue our talk about the sacraments of the church. And the last sacrament that we are speaking about is priesthood. For several times we spoke about the order of deacons, and we took every level or order by itself, starting from Psaltus, which is the hymnist or singer, going up to archdeacon, or the head of the deacons. And we spoke about how we choose each category, and what are the requirements, and what is their work, what they're supposed to do in the church and outside the church. And we get all through that, and we know from the history of the church how the deacon's position came to exist in the church. Now, to finish what we're talking about the deacons, and next time, God willing, we're going to start to talk about the priest, the order of priesthood, the priest, and the ranks of priests. But before speaking about the priests, we cannot neglect a very important order in the church that we don't see those days, our days. And not because we don't see them or we don't see this rank. It is not meant that we eliminate something from the order of the church, but rather it comes time that we can't find either a good candidate or we can't find work for them. Either or, it comes the time in the Coptic church that we don't have deaconesses. Deaconess means a female deacon. All what we're talking about for several weeks before, we spoke about the deacons, male deacons. But we can't ignore that there were in the church the order of deaconesses. They were helping the apostles, and later they served with bishops and priests in various services in the first church. Initially, the service was only available to widowed women, the women who become widow, over the age of 60. We read in the apostolic canons, which was discovered and dated back to the 2nd to the 3rd century, what they call the apostolic canons. Those apostolic canons, they mention the deaconesses and what they're supposed to do and what their work were. But they imposed a condition that the deaconesses must be a virgin, number one, or a widow who is over the age of 60. So in the starting from the 2nd, 3rd century, they have this deaconess order in the church, but only for a virgin who's not going to be married, means she consecrated her life to Christ. Like nowadays we have nuns. So either a virgin who will not marry in the future, decided not to marry, so they ordain her as a deaconess. Or an old lady that was married and she become a widow and she is over 60. St. Paul cared about the matter of widowed deaconesses in the first church, and he wrote about them in the 5th chapter of his epistle, the first epistle to St. Timothy. According to our teacher St. Paul, the conditions for a successful deaconess are a widow who has been the wife of one man or a virgin. So now we get to know what they used to have in the first church. Those who want to become a deaconess, she has to be either a virgin and decide not to marry, or a widow over 60 years of old. If a widow, as we said, she must be 60 or over. Why? What is the reason? Sometimes one family, the widow become a widow in the age of 40, 50. Why they choose 60? They choose 60 so that she not become a stumbling block in the service because of her youthfulness or intention of remarrying. They want her to dedicate her time and her life to the church, not to her husband or her house. She must be recognized for her virtuous deeds, manners, and previous services in the church. If she has lodged stranger, that's the Bible mentioned that. Lodged stranger means she welcome those who are traveling in her house and she served them. If she has washed the saints' feet, washing the feet, service. If she has relieved the afflicted, she visited the people who has tough time in their life and she comfort them. If she diligently followed every good work with a reputation for good works, if she has brought up children. And the last point is very important. If she is a widow, over 60 years old, most of the time she have children. She has children. So the church will look to the children and see their behaviors. If she succeeds in raising up her kids, that is a sign for the church telling us or telling the church that this woman is worthy of being a deaconess. But if, for example, she is a good widow, but she can't raise her kids become troublemakers. I cannot trust her to be a deaconess in the church, because she's gonna teach the children. She's gonna take care of the mothers of the children. The question now, do we have examples in the Bible referring to a deaconess in the first church? Yes, we have. These successful deaconesses are, for example, one of the famous one, Phoebe. Phoebe, who was commended by St. Paul for the Church of Rome. He wrote, I commend to you Phoebe, our sister, who is a servant of the church of Cenchrea, that you may receive her in the Lord in a manner worthy of the saints. St. Paul is saying about her that she is a saint. If she and assist her in whatever business she has need of of you, for indeed she has been a helper of many and myself also. So St. Paul is recommending Phoebe to be a deaconess in the Church of Rome. She is from another city and she's going to serve the Church of Rome. And he is writing a recommendation letter for her to go there, and they accept her. So one of the things that he said about her, receive her in the Lord in a manner worthy of the saints. And one will think about this word. St. Paul himself is acknowledging Phoebe, the servant, the deaconess, as she is a saint. Not after her death, but while she's alive. See how the deaconess should be of good reputation. Phoebe herself, she is the one who wrote the epistles to the Romans, the epistle to the Romans, as dictated by our St. Paul, and carried it to the believers in Rome. So she wrote it from his mouth, and she carried it to them. She delivered them the message. Is there any other deaconess in the history of the church? Yes. We hear about Saint Thecla. Saint Thecla. She was also a disciple of St. Paul. She believed and was baptized and became a disciple of St. Paul, who assigned her for service in Iconium, her original homeland. She faced many tribulations and torture, but the Lord saved her every time. She spent all her life in service. Then when she was 80 years old, she secluded herself for meditation and then peacefully passed away in old age after a long and faithful service. And they said that in Syria, in the famous city that we hear about it now, Ma'lula, they have the tomb of Saint Thecla. And they have a famous nunnery that we heard a few months ago, that some people kidnapped one of the two nuns of those nuns who live there. About Saint Thecla, the Greek Synaxarium in the Greek church, they praised her saying, "Hail to Saint Thecla, who was martyred without shedding blood." Means she did a lot of service and she faced a lot of tribulation to the point that she became a martyr without shedding her blood. Also, the Coptic Church celebrate her death on the 23rd of Tut every year. What happened to the order of deaconess in the Coptic Church? Starting from the 13th century, 13th century, the service of consecrated deaconess in church was abolished. But thank God, due to the urgent need for the service of women in church, His Holiness Pope Shenouda III, may God rest his soul, decided to revive this rite or this rank on the Feast of Pentecost in 1981. He consecrated a large number of deaconesses of the service for Cairo churches. Today, we found many bishops have also consecrated deaconesses for the service within their diocese. During the Holy Synod meeting on the Feast of Pentecost in 1992, the Synod established certain rights and conditions pertaining to the order of consecration for the consecrated deaconess. بيسموه طقس تكريس المكرسات. Next time, God willing, we shall know some of the points that the Holy Synod put concerning the rite of consecrating the deaconess. So this is a good chance for girls. If you have the zeal, if you have the wish to serve the Lord. So, as we said and we mentioned what the Bible mentioned about the deaconess, may God put in your hearts, all of you, the love for His house, the love for His service, the love for His people, in order for you to grow up and be deaconesses in the Holy Church. To Him is due glory, now and forever, unto the ages of all ages. Amen.